You don't see the arms, right?
You're from back, you're up.
Hello and welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Alan West, filling in for Dee Tranter. Let's take a look at the weather forecast for today. As you're all aware, the weather's hot and dry out there today, and it looks as though it'll continue that way for some time to come. We have a little update on the soil moisture content for southeastern Utah, and it's currently at 19%, so it's really getting dry out there. In news today, the Grand County Sheriff's Office reports a man lost in the river, and Utah Power and Light awards $100,000 in scholarships. We'll be back with these stories and more right after this message.
Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC.
The Grand County Sheriff's Office reports they are conducting a search for a person missing in the river. A 41-year-old man from Salt Lake City was floating through the rapids at Big Bend, 10 miles east of Moab, when he disappeared on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. The man was wearing a life jacket and had floated through the rapids numerous times. Sheriff Jim Nyland stated that he had the county rescue boat out with 3 deputies patrolling the area from Big Bend to Potash. Private individuals are assisting in the search from Potash to the park boundaries. The National Park Service is searching from the boundary to Cataract Canyon. Sheriff Nyland also stated he has set up a 24-hour watch at the river bridge and will be conducting daily boat patrols as long as necessary. Utah Power and Light has given 200 scholarships to graduating seniors this year within their service district. The scholarships are for $500 each for a total of $100,000. Roger Puckett, manager of Utah Power and Light's Canyonlands District, presented the scholarships to 4 students in southeastern Utah during the awards assemblies at the high schools. The scholarships were awarded to Jeannie Kalui at Whitehorse High, Cheryl Ann Adamson at Grand County High, Leanne Lovell at San Juan High School, and Brenda Sue Dennis at Green River High School. The scholarship may be used at a vocational school, college, or university, and is for tuition and/or fees. In other news today, we'll have a report on the Firemen's Convention being held in Moab right after this message.
Spanish Valley Nursery at 2620 Spanish Valley Drive invites you to come out and see the wide variety of trees to please your dad on Father's Day, June 18th. Fast-growing globe willows, delicate mimosas to attract those hummingbirds and give your yard an exotic appeal. Shady fruit trees, and fruitless mulberries, honey locust, a host of evergreens, spreaders and uprights such as forsythia or snowballs, roses and fruit trees as well. For Father's Day or any occasion you want something lovely and green in your yard. That's Spanish Valley Nursery, 2620 Spanish Valley Drive.
The Utah Firemen's Convention is in town this week. The firemen held a parade on Thursday evening with many of the departments driving their restored antique firefighting equipment.
water removing place.
Moab Fire Department Committee Chairman Kevin McGann stated they had over 675 registrations of firefighters plus their families. Also on hand were various equipment exhibitors for the 4-day event. McGann stated up to 1,200 people were involved in the activities. Let's take a look at upcoming activities in our area. The second annual Red Devil Par 3 Golf Tournament will be held Saturday, June 24th at 2 p.m. This is a fundraiser for the Grand County High School Athletic Department. Included in a $15 donation are hats, food, and door prizes. All holes will be moved to par 3 distances with mulligans available. For further details, call the golf course at 259-6488. Moab City Council will hold a special meeting on Thursday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held in the council chambers of the Grand County Courthouse at 125 East Center Street. The purpose of this meeting will be to hear public input on the proposed fiscal year budget for 1989-1990. And finally, there will be a special Grand County Commission meeting Monday, June 19th at the council chambers in the courthouse. The purpose of this meeting is for the setting of the proposed tax rate. And that's news of the Moab and Canyonlands area. Thank you for being with us.
The Movies Video Library at 98 East Center Street has the largest and best selection of movies in Utah with over 3,000 titles. New releases to classics, a large selection of children's movies, and for that sweet tooth, Golitz candies. We also have gourmet coffee with many fine blends. The Movies, your one-stop video store at 98 East Center, 259-8847.
got and learn to control it, because we're going to ruin what we got if we don't.
Hi, I'm John Fogg, your local independent insurance agent. We've been serving the Moab area since 1955. Central Utah Insurance Agency has a company that fits just about any need. Just look at what we can do for you. We can insure all kinds of vehicles, from old to new, sporty to luxury. We can insure almost every kind of home. Why not come in and see me today? I'll put your insurance coverage with a company that fits your needs at the best possible price.
Welcome to our TV News Report. I'm Dee Tranter with a roundup of news that is of interest to our Moab and Canyonlands area, and it is good to be with you today. Let's take a look at the weather forecast for our area. Certainly we can say that summer is here. We have already had some very warm weather as we move into the middle part of the summer season. In news today, the labor market report is out on unemployment and the labor situation, not only here in Grand County, but around Utah. Business activity in San Juan County hasn't been keeping up with Grand County, and overseas visitors continue to make an impact. And I'll have those stories and more news in just a moment. Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC. Utah's labor market report for the month of May is just out by the Utah Employment Security Office. Here are some of the highlights. Trade, retail, and wholesale year-over increase is at 5.5%. Utah's total retail sales in the first quarter of 1989 are 9.6% higher than a year ago. Manufacturing job growth has slowed, but still remains more than double the comparable U.S. average. Business service jobs at 47,000 number more than those of many of Utah's major industries, and Utah's non-agricultural employment has increased by nearly 26,000, 25,800 since May of a year ago. Here in Grand County, the unemployment rate for Grand County stands at 8.9%. That compares to 8.3% the previous month and 8.1% a year ago. So our unemployment rate is a little higher than it was in May of last year. However, the number of jobs has increased, and while that has happened, the number of people in the civilian labor force has increased even more. The civilian labor force between May of this year and May of a year ago increased 8.6%, while the number of non-agriculture wage and salary jobs increased 6.5% in the past year. We'd reported several days ago on the sales tax for Grand County, indicating that Grand County has increased 11.4% in business activity as measured by the sales and use tax receipts last year. But in our neighboring San Juan County, a report is out there that indicates their business activity has decreased. The business activity in San Juan County, as measured by sales and use tax receipts, totaled $46,415,000 last year, a decrease of 7.6%, while Grand County increased 11.4%. Overseas visitors are making Utah one of their principal destinations in the United States, according to Joe Rutherford with the Utah Travel Council. Rutherford said, according to Foremost West, a Salt Lake City-based agency that helps promote overseas tourism to Utah, that Utah jumped from 113,000 visitors in 1985 to 425,000 overseas visitors in 1987, an increase of 276%. West Germany generated the greatest number of overseas visitors. I'm sure that's no news to Moab people, because we've certainly seen a great increase in the number of visitors from other countries, and West Germany leads that list. The United Kingdom was second. They had 59,900 visitors, followed by Scandinavia, 21,900, Japan at 21,300, France at 19,600, and Italy at 12,500. Utah Travel Council Director C.J. Woolley attributes the jump in overseas visitors to favorable exchange rates and maintaining a consistent presence in the international marketplace. He said for the past 14 years, the Travel Council, Foremost West, and Motivators, which is the Travel Council's Brussels-based sales representatives, have been attending trade shows, conducting trade missions, and arranging educational tours to get foreign tour operators to list us in their catalogs. And he said now that the dollar is lower, our efforts are paying off. Well, he said according to the latest listings, Utah's had 25% of the total international tour product in the Intermountain region. One place those efforts have really made a difference is over at Zion National Park. According to the chief naturalist there, Roy Givens, he said we had 2 million visitors last year, and about 20% of those were internationals. Now, that story doesn't mention this, but I think the number of international visitors this year so far is off from last year, and that's a personal observation. But I think that is an observation that most local people will agree with, that the number of international visitors is down this year in at least Grand County. Grand County Sheriff's Office, aided by deputies and search and rescue people, are continuing their search of the Colorado River for that Salt Lake City man who was lost last weekend in the rapids around Big Bend. He was floating in a life jacket with a number of young people and a few other adults through some of the rapids around the Big Bend near the campground area there, when he suddenly turned up missing and has not been seen since. Over the weekend, searchers said they had no success in their search. They were attempting to drag the river around the Big Bend area. The sheriff's officers were conducting the search there, and lights have been set up at the old bridge abutment as they continue to search the river on a 24-hour-a-day basis. Lost was 41-year-old Dennis Astle, who has been the subject of the search since he disappeared last Thursday when members of a church group were going through the small rapids in life jackets. They said most of the other members of the church group told me they were paying most of their attention to the young people who are coming through. All of them had life jackets on. Astle was wearing a ski-type life jacket when he disappeared. But they said their attention was directed toward the young people, and suddenly they noticed that Astle was missing. They conducted a search along the bank of the river for some time before contacting the Grand County Sheriff's Office. I took members of the church group way downriver the following morning as far as Indian Creek Canyon, and back with no success in that search. National Park Service people went on down into the First Rapids through Cataract Canyon on that same day, and the search has continued again with no results. Well, a Moab resident was featured in a major article in the Salt Lake Tribune over the weekend. I'll have that story and more news coming up in just a moment. Has continued to receive a lot of publicity recently, and last weekend in a major article in the Salt Lake Tribune, another Moab resident was featured in the lifestyle section of the Salt Lake Tribune. Patricia McConnell, who is an author now living in Moab and who has been living here in Moab for the past few years, was featured in this article in the Salt Lake Tribune. The article features a story about a book that Ms. McConnell has just finished. She also says that in the landscape around Moab, she found spiritual uplift to write the book called Sing Soft, Sing Loud. It's a collection of stories about women in prison and has just been published. The cost of the book will be $18.95. She said, getting this story out has been a major commitment of my life. She had spent time in prison after a shaky early life. Ms. McConnell discovered Moab, she said, quite by accident. She said, I was on my way to Idaho when I drove through Moab. I was absolutely knocked out. She said it was a place I had been looking for 50 years. The last 8 years have been very productive for Patricia McConnell. Her short stories have been published widely in periodicals and included in anthologies. She has been a panelist at the Writers at Work conference in Park City, taught here near Moab at a Desert Writers Workshop out at the Pack Creek Ranch recently, and also in the Mountain Writers Workshop in Logan. She's been a guest speaker at the writing class for ex-felons in San Francisco and shared a podium with Joyce Carol Oates and W.D. Wetherell at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And her new book just out, Sing Soft, Sing Loud, as she has fulfilled, she said, a lifetime commitment to women in prison with the completion of that book. So the article in the Salt Lake Tribune is entitled Beyond Prison Bars and features Patricia McConnell. Developing a program to manage trust state lands for use by guides and outfitters will highlight a meeting of the State Lands and Forestry Board that will be meeting here in Moab Friday, June 23rd. Management actions for lands recently acquired from the federal government in the vicinity of Lake Powell will also be considered. The meeting will start at 8:30 a.m. at the Community Center at 550 East First North in Moab. A briefing will be held Wednesday, June 21st at 2 o'clock at the Arches Dining Room. The board will visit state land holdings and surrounding land parcels in Blanding, Spanish Valley, and Salt Valley areas to observe and discuss uses of those lands. The tour will take place June 22nd at 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the public may attend that meeting again, which will be Friday, June 23rd at 8:30 a.m. Grand County School Board will be meeting this week on Wednesday, June 21st at 1 o'clock at the school district office. They will receive a delegation from the Grand County Special Service Road District led by Robert Shumway. Old business items include the high school citizenship policy, special education policy manual, staffing, And the policy of wearing or not wearing shorts will come up again at the meeting. New business items include the School Boards Association dues, Red Rock remodeling, and the 1989-90 district holiday schedule. So school board meeting Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And the City Council will hold a special meeting on Thursday at 7 p.m., Thursday the 22nd. The meeting will be in the council chambers of the courthouse, and the purpose of the meeting will be to hear public input on the proposed fiscal year budget for the coming year. So if you're concerned about the city's budget, the public budget hearing will be on Thursday at 7 o'clock in the council chambers of the courthouse. And that's news of Moab and our Canyonlands area. We hope you enjoy a pleasant day.
I've got scoop balls, I don't have a care. I've got scoop balls to care for my hair, and it never ever looked this good. But I always knew that it could.
Wow.
'Cause I've got scoop balls and I'm glad. I've got scoop balls taking care of my hair. I've got scoop balls. I've got scoop balls taking care of my hair. I've got scoop balls.
Hi, I'm John Fogg, your local independent insurance agent. We've been serving the Moab area since 1955. Central Utah Insurance Agency has a company that fits just about any need. Just look at what we can do for you.
We can insure all kinds of vehicles, from old to new, sporty to luxury. We can insure almost every kind of home.
Why not come in and see me today? I'll put your insurance coverage with a company that fits your needs at the best possible price.
Welcome to our TV6 News Report. I'm Dee Tranter with a roundup of news of interest to our Moab and Canyonlands country. Let's take a quick look at the weather forecast. And in news today, there's more questions about that Bookcliff Roads proposal after a recent meeting that was held in Moab. And the Moab Chamber of Commerce visited a local tour operator. Also, the Butch Cassidy Days coming up. I'll have those stories and more news in just a moment. Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC. News today, Grand County Special Service Road District held a scheduled meeting Saturday, June the 17th. The meeting was attended by representatives from the engineering firm of Kramer and Noble, who have been hired to do the study on the Bookcliff Road project. Also in attendance was Mark Walsh of the Utah Association of Counties. Utah State Representative David Adams was supposed to have appeared to answer questions on the forming of that special service district, but he failed to attend. The meeting was attended by about 25 concerned citizens who were there to ask questions about the proposed project.
What's the difference between a road district and any other special service district in that you don't get to have representation from incorporated areas?
Let me answer.
Okay.
The boundaries are different. In the resolution that created the roads district, municipal or incorporated areas were specifically excluded. In the recreation district, it was included.
By
So,
whom?
by the county commission.
But not by the state law.
Well, you can define, as he says, like they just circled the Dixie Center. The resolution that you first announced your resolution of intent to create specifies what the boundaries will be. And so the boundaries for the rec district included the whole county, including incorporated areas. And when you have incorporated areas in a special service district, by the code, it specifies that one representative from each city
Correct.
included
But
will be in it.
It was my understanding that if an incorporated area or any area within the county is excluded from that special service district, they also would be excluded from liabilities of that district. That's the reason they get.
That's
Okay, so
yeah.
then I go back to my question with Mr. Zimmerman. I guess if this all came down and there were some liabilities incurred,
It would be.
so we would not be.
Dave, that's the first mistake I ever made.
No, that's all right. I just want. Clear conscience, let's go ahead.
All right, thanks, appreciate that.
We sat here and discussed that too, Kim and I, and
Mark, let me elaborate just a little bit on that. The reason we excluded the municipalities because that was another directive we got that barely.
that's correct.
Right?
That is correct.
We didn't do it capriciously.
That's correct.
I thought it was legislative. I didn't know. Okay, I thought it was legislative. I didn't sit here.
Let me go to this lady back here.
Okay, let me see if I understand correctly. Now, this is not an unending fund or resource of money that's coming into the counties. In other words, is it based upon the mineral lease monies that come back or the mineral activity within the county? Okay, that's an understanding. In other words, it would seem to me that our highest priority would be those projects which would allow for a continuation of the generation of those mineral lease funds. Recreation doesn't offer that, in my opinion. But I do believe that this road, indeed, would continue that increase generation of those funds. So that we see that. I keep hearing you say these little things, mineral activities and so forth, and yet we're not really talking about that. And it seems to me this road is a primary asset for the continuation of generation of those funds.
The highest bonuses that have been paid on natural resources in the state of Utah have been paid right over, where's Utah? Right up in here. Right up in here. Those White River Shale bonuses generated millions and millions of dollars. In fact, I believe by the time the state finally collected and got the interest on it, we were upwards of about $53 million. And those are just bonus monies.
And they came from where now? Show them on that map right there.
Just over the
They
county
came
line.
right over the county line. So you've got, they were in Uintah County. But this area down through here is very extensive in mineral development and a mineral potential.
But it's important to note that you are taking a gamble, and instead of having those funds to be used for something in the next few years, you're actually allocating almost all of that money that you would get back to partly develop those resources, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And you might end up spending almost all of that available money just to do that one thing and not actually get anything back to the community. There's just a chance there.
I think that's a good comment, but I would just add this. And that is that 10 years ago, when we conceived the idea of having this money come back, we were taking a gamble then too. When we passed the bill, we gambled that we could set these districts up so as not to jeopardize federal payments in lieu. I mean, you know, we've gambled all along, and so far I think as long as we're sensible about what we're doing and are careful about what we're doing, I think the gamble will pay off.
You just don't want to make a road that eats up all the money you thought you were going to make. That's foolish.
I just wanted to comment that that road is backing up Georgia because it's going to be a funds provider rather than a funds user. All the other comments I've heard here today have been kind of for, well, let's break it up and do something else with it, but we really need that road. It's a good thing to connect the two communities, and it's going to open up those mineral leases up there that will provide more funds for us in our lease money, and I would surely hope that we would divert the funds to some other use.
Many counties also received mineral lease monies in which they were directed by either federal statutes under which those monies were paid, or they were directed by their states to pass that money through to the schools. That became the central question in the Comptroller General's opinion. And they were asked specifically, if a county gets mineral lease money and passes it through to a school, do they lose payments in lieu of taxes? The Comptroller General said no. So the second question then became, if they received money required by state law to pass it through to a special service district, mineral lease money passed through to a special service district, do they lose federal payments in lieu of taxes? And the second answer to that was no. So the conglomeration of the opinions that the Comptroller General issued, and to give counties the kind of discretion that we wanted them to have, we put the language out of that opinion into that statute, and that's the reason it reads the way it does. There would be an instance, we felt, in some counties where they may want to, at some point, help out an individual school or something along those lines, but the intention never was to distribute to the schools.
No, but it is I interpret the pulse of the county, and even in, I think, the pulse of the special service district for roads, that would like to see that PULT money being utilized by the county acting as a conduit for that funding, and to go to the school district and divide it up between the school district and the recreation district.
I don't think there's any question on the statute that you have that authority.
Would you receive hundreds of thousands of dollars coming into the unallocated funds for this county?
Yes.
No, I don't. I don't see that happening.
When it's the 52 cents an acre? Oh, yes.
I don't think so, Mark.
Yeah. We'll get $195 or
$197,000.
You'll get that kind of hundreds and hundreds of thousands? No, I don't see
Well,
that.
197 is pretty close to 100.
Grand County, one of the arguments that Grand County always made to all these meetings and everything is that, you know, we were one of the lower recipients of mineral lease money when you consider the other 5 counties in eastern Utah that are the big recipients. And they said, well, when you get, it will even up when you get your payment in lieu on state lands, because Grand County has a higher percentage of state lands in its county than the other counties. 20% of our lands, I believe, is state land.
You have a lot.
On our next news programs at this time, we'll take a look at answers presented when the question of forming the road district was raised and how the funding can be used for other special service districts. Tuesday night, June the 20th, 8 p.m., City Council meeting. These items on the agenda: there is a request from Ruth L. Fitzsimmons, doing business as Dave's Hitchin Post. Requests a temporary beer license pending a background investigation check by the Chief of Police. J.J. Wong and David Holcomb are appearing at the City Council meeting requesting a waiver of Ordinance 88-01 that calls for installation of sidewalks, curb, and gutter along the street frontage at the new Super 8 motel. The ordinance calls for the curb and gutter work to be done at the time of construction. There is a resolution for setting the fiscal tax year rate for 1989-90 fiscal year. There's a resolution increasing the number of steps in the current pay scale for city employees. There's a request to advertise to go to bid for painting of the number 2, that's the Mountain View water tank. Approval of underground storage tank certification training for city employees, and city salary and compensation adjustments for the 88-89 fiscal year. The Chamber of Commerce recently visited and held a meeting at a Moab Tour Company's offices, and I'll have that story in just a moment.
The Movies Video Library at 98 East Center Street has the largest and best selection of movies in Utah, with over 3,000 titles. New releases to classics, a large selection of children's movies, and for that sweet tooth, Golitz candies. We also have gourmet coffee with many fine blends. The Movies, your one-stop video store at 98 East Center, 259-8847.
The Moab Chamber of Commerce held their June evening social at Tagalong Tours Travel Agency. Chamber members and interested members of the public met at the Tagalong Tours offices with the Tagalong staff, who introduced the many varied river and jeep tours available, and the full-service travel agency at Tagalong. Tagalong Tours has changed since the days that Mitch Williams organized the company many years ago. Bates Wilson, a former superintendent of Arches and Canyonlands National Park, suggested the name Tagalong to Mitch, as he was always tagging along with other Jeep tours. Tagalong Tours is now a name known worldwide. Bob Jones, owner of Tagalong since January of 1982, has marketed his product extensively throughout Europe and many other parts of the globe. He has exciting combination river jeep expeditions along the Colorado River and into the serenity of Canyonlands National Park. He's added last year something new that they're continuing again this year, and that's opera in the Canyonlands. Grand Opera in the Canyonlands will perform 2 extraordinary concerts, September 9th and 10th. Those concerts are in a secluded grotto along the Colorado River in Canyonlands National Park downstream from Moab. Moab Chamber of Commerce also said they would like to remind area residents this week of the Butch Cassidy Days and Canyonlands RCA Rodeo. Pro Rodeo will be in town June 22nd and through the 24th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Activities start at 2 p.m. Thursday, June 22nd, with a celebrity autograph party at Chamber Park. Live Western music, ice-cold lemonade, rodeo week, and visitor information booth, clowns, and children's face painting are just a few of the festivities occurring in the afternoon Thursday and Friday prior to the 8 p.m. rodeo. at the rodeo grounds. Stop at the Chamber Park, pick up your rodeo tickets, and watch Hollywood Stuntman Hall of Fame stage exciting exhibitions along Main Street. There'll be a rodeo parade, and entrants promise an exciting parade for Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you'd like more information about those activities, you could call the Chamber of Commerce at 259-7531. You're also invited to join the Chamber of Commerce in dedicating the Chamber Park at 64 South Main at a catered luncheon ceremony Tuesday, June 27th at 12 noon. Chamber members and interested members of the public are invited. And finally, the City of Moab is accepting applications for the position of caretaker at the Old City Park. Applications may be picked up at the city offices at 150 East Center Street, and deadline for all applications is Wednesday, June 28th at 5 o'clock. And that's news of Moab and our Canyonlands area. We hope you enjoy a good day. Recourse would be to file a complaint with Super 8.
Don't they have a price, don't they have a
They do.
a limit? That's what they
Hi, I'm John Fogg, your local independent insurance agent. We've been serving the Moab area since 1955. Central Utah Insurance Agency has a company that fits just about any need. Just look at what we can do for you.
We can insure all kinds of vehicles, from old to new, sporty to luxury. We can insure almost every kind of home.
Why not come in and see me today? I will put your insurance coverage with a company that fits your needs at the best possible price.
Welcome to our TV6 News Report. I'm Dee Tranter with a roundup of news of interest to our Moab and Canyonlands area. And let's take a look at the weather forecast. I happened to look at one of the Salt Lake weather forecasters referred to our area as having breezy weather. I think we've had a little more than just breezy weather. This has been a year for wind. And so it seems like it's been just a windy year. No moisture, though. In news today, we'll have more on that special road service issue that we've talked about recently, and we have a report on city council meeting. And those stories and more news coming up after this. Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC. In news today, as we told you on our last broadcast, we have more information on the meeting held last Saturday here in Moab by Grand County Roads Special Service Roads District. Mark Walsh with the Utah Association of Counties explained the forming of the road boards and how the funding took place.
Several years ago, after opinions had been rendered by the Comptroller General, excuse me, which indicated that if these monies and release monies were passed through from the state to the counties and put in special service districts, that those monies would, excuse me, would not be deducted from payments in lieu that the counties received on federal lands. And so we began then the process of trying to pass legislation that would require the state to pass through some of these mineral lease monies back to the areas that generated them. And that's what gave us then finally the passage of House Bill 273. Some of us have been involved in that bill for 10 years. The intention when that program was passed was to also have those monies flow into the special service district that was being created for roads, because those monies can also not be directly received by the county and spent by the county. So the intention was to have both of those funds flow into the special service districts that are being created by the counties, and then to allow the counties through their special service districts to use those monies to benefit the people of the counties. Well, let me just elaborate a little bit on how these monies can be used under Section F of that section, and we're talking about Section 64 of the Code. In 1978, there was a question raised as to whether or not mineral lease monies that were actually received by the county should be used to deduct the amounts for federal payments in lieu. The state makes that computation every year. The other question that was raised was what happens if there are mineral lease monies that flow into the county but that are not acted upon, and that's the terminology used, not acted upon by the county. That related to special service districts that counties would create, essentially use no discretion in whether they received those mineral lease monies or even how much of those monies. And that's the reason that Section F of that statute appears the way it does.
What type of special services?
All right, let me just finish and then I'll go into that. Under that scenario, the county does not have discretion on whether or not they will put those mineral lease monies into that special service district, because the statute is not permissive. It does not allow the county, for instance, to receive the money and then to redistributed. It says that they will go to the district under the mineral lease provision. So they'll go to the district, and then the county is required under chapters 23 and 24 of the Utah Code to set up special service districts. Now, what can those special service districts be, and what can they use the money for? There are, if you want, I'd be happy to quote right from the code. Under the code in chapter 23, there are purposes for which counties may create special service districts, and this is what it says. A county may establish a service district for the purpose of providing within the area of the service district any of the following services or any combination of them: water, sewerage, drainage, flood control, garbage, hospital, transportation, and that's what you've done, recreation, fire protection, or street lighting, and snow removal. In the legislature, we sold this essentially as a rural county road bill. But we made it very clear that in some counties, we wanted them to have the discretion to do what they needed to do to help their citizenry. And in some counties, they simply didn't want that money for roads. Kane County, for instance, owns the hospital. That hospital, if any of you have followed what's gone on down there, is the only hospital within about 70 miles of the people in Canaan and Kane County. That hospital has cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and looks like it still may not make it. But the county, Kane County, instead of creating a road district, has created a hospital district. And they'll put all of those monies that they receive under these two programs into that district to try to keep their hospital afloat. So there are some differences in the way the money's being spent.
Mentions in the code about expanding the scope of the special service district. Does that mean that at this point, this special service district could be expanded in scope to include a multitude of purposes?
It could. There are provisions in the statute in chapters 23 and 4 of the code that allow for that to occur.
Mark, there's been some questions asked in town and some comments made that the education people helped lobby for this money. You was probably closer associated with that than anyone. What could you tell us on whether they did or they didn't, or what?
Well, and I don't want to create a situation in which we start lining up to see who took credit and who didn't. The fact of the matter was that education was not involved in helping us lobby this bill. The only person who was actually involved, and I put this provision in at their request, Charles Evans from the University of Utah. So I placed in this bill at his request, and he and I wrote it sitting on the couch out in the foyer. And then just place it in the bill. We put in this section G, which says, to the extent available from the remaining unallocated portion of the mineral lease account to each county in which are located school or institutional trust lands, lands owned by the Division of Parks and Recreation, and lands that are owned also by the Department of Wildlife Resources that are not under contract. We put that provision in to accommodate the concerns of the schools. Those were the only times that the education people got involved. They didn't help, they didn't hinder. This was seen strictly as a county program, as a county bill, and the counties were the ones who lobbied it through.
If at about the same time we created the special service road district, we also created a special service recreation district within the county. That board is, I assume, is in place. Is it? Yeah. The new recreation special service district board is in place. Could these funds then go to that special service recreation district board? Now assuming that what you're saying, we don't want to jeopardize the funds because you think that may happen, but say we wanted to do the same as Kane County, we decided that our need in this county was not roads but was recreation. could we then divert that money to that special recreation board?
Well, and again, I'm going to waffle as I answer that, and just say this, that recreation districts, let me answer that this way.
Good.
So,
He doesn't want to answer that,
I don't want to be pinned down, particularly when we're keeping a record.
That's fine, we want this on record.
I know you do. Summit County, the Glenn Brown, former speaker, prime sponsor, hardball player, represents in the legislature, created or proposed to create a recreation district, not a road district. And Glenn just came unglued and said, it just offends me no end that here we fought all these years to get this through, and now we're going to build golf courses with it? That was his comment to me. Now, in fact, that was just this week. And now we're going to build golf courses with it? And he said then to me, he said, you sold this to us as a road district or to help rural Utah with some critical needs. And I said, that's where it still is. If you got a problem with a recreation district, Glenn, you got a task force up there that's sitting, looking at special service districts, take that provision out. Disallow counties the right to create those recreation districts, or modify it if you want. But under the current law, counties have the authority to create these districts consistent with the law. Now, Glenn was so vocal in the public hearing that was held, the county decided that they had best not go through and create the recreation district, and they have now gone back and served up public notice that they intend to come back and create a road district, and that's what they will do. But I've talked to him about the situation in Kane County, and I said to him, do you think this is inappropriate? Is it inappropriate to allow a county like Kane County to have a hospital or a facility there that they create a special service district for and channel these monies into that will benefit the people in Kane County? And he said, no, I don't think that's inappropriate. And so we took it a little bit further. In Washington County, the state legislature put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Dixie Center at Dixie College down there. Washington County has determined that since they now have to maintain that center by direction from the state legislature, that they would be better off creating a special service district around the Dixie Center. And that's what they did.
And we'll have more later in the week on that road issue and that recent meeting that was held with the Special Service Road Board. In other news, Rodeo Week this week, and a body of a Salt Lake man found in the Colorado River, and a report on the City Council. And I'll have those stories after this. Don't forget, this is Rodeo Week in Moab, and a lot of activities are going on. Come and join in some of the activities, and let me mention just a couple of special things. Thursday at 6 o'clock, there's a big, fantastic barbecue dinner at the rodeo grounds. At 8 o'clock, or at 7 o'clock rather, on both Friday and Saturday nights at the rodeo grounds, Fallen Arches Square Dance Club will be performing, and rodeo performances will be each night at 8 o'clock. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights at the rodeo grounds at 8 o'clock for professional rodeo here in Moab. By the way, any merchant or club wishing to secure a booth at the rodeo ground should contact either Ethel Christ at 259-6248 or Betty Walderscheid at 259-6413. The body of that Salt Lake man who drowned late last week, has been found finally after a several days search. In fact, the search continued for 5 days before the body of 41-year-old Dennis Astle was discovered. He disappeared while with members of a church group swimming in the Big Bend, near the Big Bend campground area, on Friday of last week, or rather Thursday of last week. The body was found about 4 miles downstream from where he disappeared Thursday. He vanished after helping several children to shore, and some of the other adults said they were concerned about the children and then happened to look up and Mr. Astle had disappeared. The victim was wearing a life jacket. He was found floating near the Big Bend Rapids. The rapids are located about 10 miles upriver from Moab, and among the searchers were 5 off-duty firefighters who arrived in Moab on Monday. County firefighters had also pledged to search in rotating teams until the victim was found. The victim from Salt Lake City is the father of 6 children. The youngest was only 1 year old, the oldest 15. A memorial fund has been set up in Salt Lake for 41-year-old Dennis Astle. Moab City Council held its regular meeting on Tuesday of this week and had a rather lengthy session on a variety of issues. The council approved an employee retirement rate to be held the same as last year, and also to increase the pay steps for city employees from 6 to 12, subject to an annual review. In other action, the council entered into an agreement which will allow increased reception of KUER, University of Utah Educational Radio Station in the Moab Valley. The council held a lengthy discussion with Mr. J.J. Wong, owner of the new Super 8 Motel, and with David Holcomb on a request of a variance for Resolution 88-01. That variance, or that resolution rather, calls for curb and gutter to be installed at the time of construction. Now, Mr. Wong and Mr. Holcomb are requesting an exception to the ordinance on the undeveloped portion of the property on Fifth West. The council took that issue under advisement and said they would act at the next regular city council meeting. And finally, there will be a public hearing on Ordinance 88-06, which would make it a misdemeanor for not paying city licenses and fees. And the time for that public hearing will be advertised in the future. There will be a public hearing on Thursday of this week in the city council chambers of the courthouse for the budget for the coming year. So the public budget hearing Thursday night in the council chambers of the courthouse for the 1989-90 fiscal year budget. And the next regular city council meeting will be announced at a later date. And that's news of Moab and our Canyonlands area, and we hope you enjoy a good day.
I'm John Fogg, your local independent insurance agent. We've been serving the Moab area since 1955. Central Utah Insurance Agency has a company that fits just about any need. Just look at what we can do for you.
We can insure all kinds of vehicles from old to new, sporty to luxury. We can insure almost every kind of home.
Why not come in and see me today? I will put your insurance coverage with a company that fits your needs at the best possible price.
Welcome to this TV6 News Report. I'm Dee Tranter with a roundup of news of interest to our area. And let's take a very quick look at the weather forecast. Same old thing, it looks like. In news today, State Lands and Forestry Board is here in Moab on Friday. We'll have a report. And we've also learned of the death of a Moab resident. We'll have that story. And I'll be back with news of Moab in just a moment. Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC. In news today, the State Lands and Forestry Board meeting here in Moab on Friday to discuss management actions on state lands. Christy Robbins talked with Roger Peart, the chairman of the State Lands and Forestry Board.
Welcome to this Channel 6 interview. I'm Christy Robbins reporting, and today we're talking with Roger Peart of the State Lands and Forestry Board. You're the chairman, and welcome to Moab. Good to see you.
We're happy to be here. We love to come over to Moab and take advantage of your hospitality and your beautiful weather and the many things there are to see.
It is nice out here, isn't it? I understand you have a meeting about commercial use of trust lands coming up on Friday. Would you like to explain the when and where about the whole thing?
Well, we come over we try to make a tour and see some of the trust lands while in the area and while we're here, and then we have a meeting. We had a briefing this afternoon to kind of bring us up to date on some of the issues, and then we'll tour tomorrow seeing some of the items, and then Friday we'll have our meeting at 8:30 in the morning, yes.
Well, what kinds of issues are you going to be discussing on Friday?
Well, nothing that's real different than we generally have, because we have to manage about almost 4 million acres in the state of Utah we're responsible for, and part of them is in Grand County. Quite a few of them is in Grand County, but there's always surface issues, grazing and leasing, and then mineral and other kind of surface, other kind of issues. And then we have hunting. It's quite an interesting issue now on the Book Cliffs. It's a great piece of land. It's a roadless area, one of the biggest pieces in the state of Utah, and we're all concerned about that, especially the hunters and people that's used it or want to use it.
So I understand you're going to be discussing guides and outfitters as well in relation to the commercial trust lands.
Yes, there's been some applicants submit their applications for guide service, and we've got to deal with that because we haven't done it in the past, and it's a new issue, and it's a hot area with the Book Cliffs, so we're going to have to decide how to handle that for the betterment of the public and the sportsmen and also the trust lands.
What about the possible exchange that we've heard about for so long, especially around Lake Powell?
Yeah, we'd be happy if that could go through. We feel like we got the short end of the stick when Lake Powell was put in, and with our state lands involved, and we made application for exchanges to get our lands out of a lot of areas that we're not able to use them, such as reservations and the government controlled areas, and we'd like to trade it for some land around Lake Powell.
That's a bit of a touchy subject with some environmental groups. I understand that they feel like the short end of the stick would be on their end if the exchange went through. Can you answer that?
Well, not really, because the areas need to be more facilities around Lake Powell to be able to take advantage of that beautiful project. And if there's more on this side, on the Utah side, then the people, the tourists and the people could take advantage of the water and not have to go around to the designated areas that are in now that's controlled by mostly in Arizona. So with some trades, which desperately needs to be made, we feel justified in asking for them with the federal government to exchange some of our state lands so we can do this.
What time will this meeting be taking place and where?
I better look at my thing. It's at 8:30 at the Civic Center.
A.M.?
A.M., 8:30 in the morning, yes.
This Friday?
Yeah, this Friday.
Okay.
And, so the public's welcome. Come voice your opinion. We'll give you a minute to tell us if you've got some problems or suggestions or considerations. We're happy to, because we're public servants working for the people of the state of Utah. It's a lay board. State Land Board's a lay board, and we have lots of different kind of people on there from all facts and figures of life.
Well, Roger, I really appreciate you talking with us today on Channel 6, and I wish you luck with your meeting on Friday and hope you have good weather and good fun down here in Moab while you're here.
We're looking forward to it, and I hope so too.
Thanks for watching. This is a Channel 6 interview. I'm Christy Robbins reporting.
That meeting is taking place at 8:30 a.m. at the Community Center, and the public is invited to attend. That's on Friday. In other news, we've received word of the death of 22-year-old Valerie Adet Tuttle of Moab. She was killed on Tuesday in Prescott, Arizona in a single-car accident. Her parents are Mr. and Mrs. Richard Level of Moab, and services are pending at this time. Well, a reminder again is Rodeo Week in Moab, and a report on Film Commission activity coming up after this.
Hello, I'm Jerry Don Galloway, professional rodeo clown bullfighter. I'd like to welcome all of y'all out to Moab this weekend for the big rodeo, the Butch Cassidy Days Rodeo. Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night at 8 p.m. at the Canyonlands Fairground. Y'all come see us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mickey Young. I'm the owner of the Silver Lining Rodeo Company, and we're here to put on professional rodeo for you. Butch Cassidy Days in Canyonlands, Utah, right here at Moab. We're going to do it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Come watch us.
Butch Cassidy Rodeo Day is coming up. Don't forget, a lot of activities are going on. Thursday at 6 p.m. at the rodeo grounds, there's a fantastic barbecue dinner. On Friday at 7 p.m., Fallen Arches Square Dance Club will perform, as they will also Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the rodeo grounds. And, of course, rodeo performances for 3 nights in Moab, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 o'clock at the rodeo grounds. So come out and enjoy some great rodeo activity. Any merchant or club wishing to secure a booth at the rodeo ground should contact Ethel Christ or Betty Walderscheid. And the number there for Betty is 259-6413, or Ethel Christ can be contacted at 259-6248. Well, applications are now being accepted for the Movie TV Star Look-alike contest. Winners of each of 4 age categories will receive a personalized T-shirt, videos from the movies, and other gifts from local merchants. Also, $50 cash prize will be awarded to the best in all categories. Initially, rules stated that a 5x7 photo was required to enter the contest. Film Commission has decided to relax that rule so as not to exclude anyone from entering. Photos may now be no larger than 8x10 and no smaller than 3x5. Applications can be picked up at Old Spanish Trail Camera Shop, the Movies Film Commission office, and the film office is at 59 South Main on the 2nd floor. In film news, Wirtz Films successfully completed their Pontiac shoot last Friday. 7 different locations were used for their commercials. 8 local people were hired, and the company dropped about $23,000 in Moab for that filming. And representatives of KUED TV Channel 7 were scouting last week for a TV adventure documentary. They will be filming in a couple of weeks. They selected locations in Monument Valley, San Rafael Swell, and here at Moab. In the coming events department, Pastor Keith Van Arsdal of Community Baptist Church says we're geared up for an unforgettable experience for the Sunseeker Safari. That's the theme of the Vacation Bible School this year. And he said it will be a wonderful place for your children ages 3 years through the 6th grade, where they can experience the adventure of getting to know God. Pastor Keith added that the Sunseeker Safari theme will help create an atmosphere of fun and excitement while featuring life-related Bible study, lively songs, skits, crafts, games, and recreation. And the Bible School will be Monday, June 26th and continues through June the 30th. For information, call 259-7319. And it's time for our weekly movie review, brought to you by the Movies Video Library. Christy Robbins and Suzanne Osana are taking a look at Stealing Heaven.
Welcome to Channel 6 Movie Review. I'm Christy Robbins, and this week we are going to be talking about historical romance, which is just a real tearjerker, called Stealing Heaven, about the story of Heloise and Abelard in the 12th century.
I'm Susan Osana, and this week's movie, Stealing Heaven, is about real people. And boy, what a love affair these two had. It's about Heloise and Abelard. And Abelard was a philosopher in 12th century Paris, and Heloise was the daughter of, well, actually she was the niece, the ward of an important man of the city who was some official. I didn't quite get if he was a church official or he had some capacity. He was a well-known man in the city of Paris. And this clip you're about to see is where they meet and see each other for the first time. And it's just wonderful, the chemistry that goes on between these two. And this is what carries this wonderful movie. So now here they meet over tragedy in the street, but the important part is the way they look in each other's eyes.
You beast!
Lady!
You beast!
Lady, be calm.
You just dump that poor little boy and then you steal the money!
I was collecting it. It would have been stolen in seconds.
What are you going to do with it?
Give it to his parents, of course.
And where are they?
They must be here somewhere. We can't just leave the body by the side of the road.
But perhaps we can help. Thomas, tell them I will not be teaching until noon. Go to each street and search for the parents. To touch these would be sacrilege. They will be quite safe.
I know who he is. I'll take him. One of Suger's men, wasn't it? They're like animals.
Come. I'll take you home.
Thank you. But I live just there.
Then you are Eloise. The Gadarene swine would have belonged to the Romans. The bishop spoke of you.
Sadly enough, I can't remember the actors' names in this particular film, but it really doesn't matter. Just knowing that it is a historical fact that these characters actually existed and that they had such a passionate affair that really for that time of history was extremely scandalous and tore the lives of everyone else apart. But it was wonderful the way they pulled it off, and they aren't actors with classic Hollywood good looks, but they really know how to portray a romance. It was sensual without being overdone. I think it is not something that children are going to enjoy because it is a romance, but it is not graphic in any sense. And although it does have slow moments in terms of the plot, it's not a real fast-paced film. The last few frames are really big payoffs, and it takes you through the whole life of these people, the girl from when she is school age, say 12, to death, and Abelard, who's the famous philosopher, all the way to his old age, and people still put flowers on their graves because they're such renowned lovers. It was just...
Oh, this movie. If you love a good romance, and boy, do Christine, I love a good romance, this is the one to see. Even though there is we'll warn you, there's a very strong tragedy that befalls these two. But they triumph over it, I think, and I think it fits in with the story. If it hadn't had that great element of tragedy like Romeo and Juliet, it would have just been another love story. And just briefly, Abelard is a philosopher, teacher, and in 12th century Paris, teachers were by custom celibate. He wasn't a priest, he wasn't under vows, but he was by custom celibate. And so to fall in love with a young woman he was tutoring was indeed scandalous, particularly since the young woman's uncle had plans for her to make a very good marriage, and Abelard wasn't it. He had already given up. He was an eldest son of a minor nobleman in Brittany, and had already given up his inheritance and title to be a teacher. So he had virtually nothing, and even if it could have been possible, a match with this man was not what her uncle wanted. And in the story, you get a little hint that the uncle was very possessive of Heloise, who was a very beautiful woman, and also had a little, he prized her intelligence, he prized her beauty, and he was, I think, a little bit in love with her himself. Mm-hmm. And so when she did this, sort of spoiled his plans, that sets in motion this tremendous revenge that this man takes against both of them through Abelard. It makes sense, and it all pulls together, and it's just a wonderful story of passions and humanity, and how these two people, in a way, I thought toward the end, they triumph over this tragedy, and both in some ways become stronger, bigger people for it. So it's just a beautiful romance, and little tears at the end, but they're nice tears, you know. You just
Yes, I don't think it's one either that is sappy,
No.
meaning that if you are going to watch it, say, and you have a husband who goes, "Ooh, a romance, no, I won't watch it," your guy may actually enjoy
like
this
it. It's
film.
very because it's very passionate. Yeah, it's not sappy, and they're very strong, well-rounded characters. You know, they're not sappy little people. Abelard's a very virile man,
Yes,
even
he
though he's supposed to be a celibate teacher.
What the heck?
Yeah,
That's what Heloise thought.
Eloise sure
Let's
fell
go
for
with
him,
it.
and you do, and so did, and Eloise is very beautiful, but also very spunky. She's sort of the classic spunky historical heroine. I mean, she could have been just out of a historical romance, you know, with the cover Blazing Passions, you know.
It was
great.
the historical references that interested me the most, and finding a little bit of what Paris was actually like when Notre Dame was under construction, and the politics involved with getting that raised, because it took taxes from people to raise the church. And the thing that the uncle did was take care of relics, and
I think
he traded
sold
relics.
them and traded
And,
relics.
maybe faked them out as the
Yeah,
bones
I
of
think,
Peter
yeah,
and
really.
that kind of stuff. So anyway, there are lots of
Hair of the
interesting
Blessed
points. I think
Virgin,
we'd
yeah, I
have
mean, they've had, right, you know.
we'd have to absolutely recommend it for several different
Oh, it's one of those this summer you just can't miss, because
Steal
it's
a Little
beautiful.
Heaven.
Steal a Little Heaven and see this movie.
Yeah.
The Movies Video Library at 98 East Center Street has the largest and best selection of movies in Utah, with over 3,000 titles. New releases to classics, a large selection of children's movies, and for that sweet tooth, Golitz candies. We also have gourmet coffee with many fine blends. The Movies, your one-stop video store at 98 East Center, 259-8847.
Well, that's our movie review and news of Moab and the Canyonlands country. We hope you enjoy a good day. Welcome to our TV News Report. This is a roundup of news of interest to Moab and the Canyonlands area, and I'm Dee Tranter with the news of our area and the news that we think is of interest to residents of our Moab community. And while we give you a quick look at what we think may be coming up weather-wise, it's been, as you know, an exceptionally dry year. It's going to take a lot of moisture before we ever catch up, and probably, I don't know whether we'd ever do that by the end of the year or not. Certainly the weather pattern will have to change drastically. In fact, some counties have been declared disaster areas because of the drought. I'll have that story. Also, a report on that Blue Ribbon Committee that was formed recently to discuss the impact of tourism in our community. I'll have a report there, and we'll have more news in just a moment. Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center would like to introduce the Winner Premier Checking Account. You'll receive a minimum of 5.25% on your balance, plus a variety of services, including accidental death insurance, credit card registration, emergency cash advance, travel bonus club, and free special Winner Premier checks. So visit the friendly people at Williamsburg Savings Bank at 164 East Center, member FSLIC. Four Utah counties here in the eastern part of the state of Utah have been declared disaster areas because of the extended drought period. And it's been a drought that even some old-timers say they cannot remember any time when we've had this dry weather. 4 Utah counties were declared agricultural drought disaster areas by the federal government last Wednesday. Uinta Basin ranchers have been hit the hardest, with 10,000 to 15,000 cattle already moved or sold because there is no feed. To qualify as a drought disaster area, Uinta, Duchesne, Emery, and Carbon counties had to prove 40% of the livestock feed growing on rangelands and in farmers' fields died because of lack of moisture. They were able to prove that and have been declared as disaster areas. According to one Utah rancher, Mr. Verl Haslam, a 58-year-old rancher from Neola, Utah, that's in Uinta County, said, "This is the worst I've seen in all of my life." And he's a lifelong rancher in that area. He said in the past few weeks, Uinta Basin cattle have been trucked out to greener pastures in Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, and some have just been taken to sale. In the Uinta Basin, which includes Uinta County, Duchesne, and the northeastern part of Carbon County, moisture is only 45% of normal, according to Bill Adler, state meteorologist in charge. In the remainder of Carbon County and in Emery County, precipitation is a little bit better, but not much, 62%. That's only a little more than half of what normally would fall at this time of the year. In other parts of Duchesne County and the Uinta Mountains, precipitation is 92% of normal. The drought disaster designation will allow ranchers to qualify for federal emergency feed and emergency assistance programs. Well, you remember recently a Blue Ribbon Committee was established here in Moab to take a look at the impact of tourism in our area. Well, that committee is in operation now. Christy Robbins talked with Pat Spar, co-chairman of the Education Subcommittee.
Welcome to Channel 6 Interview. I'm Christy Robbins reporting, and today we're talking with Pat Spar, who is a forester for the United States Forest Service and also the co-chairman of the Education Subcommittee for the Grand County Blue Ribbon Committee for Infrastructure. Quite a title, Pat. How are you today?
Great. Glad to be here.
Good. Well, thanks for taking some time. I wanted to ask you a question about the Education Subcommittee and exactly what role that plays. What does that subcommittee do?
Well, the Education Subcommittee was formed to provide information to the public on proper land ethic and techniques they can use to minimize impacts while they're camping and mountain biking in Canyonlands.
Well, that's great. Are there a couple of specific programs in line for this coming season to do that?
Well, as part of the total program of the committee, there's a whole list of things that we're doing now to minimize the impacts and involve the community in our programs.
Great.
One thing that's going on right now is a volunteer program that the BLM has put together with some volunteers that are going along the river road on weekends and providing some trash bags to the public and talking to them about what they can do to clean up the river. And not only do they suggest that they carry out their own trash, but also take some extra out and help clean up. There are some people involved with that, Jack and Sally Seglar, and also Chris Kelbs of Moab. So some volunteer effort there, and it's working out real well. Wayne Ruth is working on a Highway 128 cleanup program. And he's going to put together a group of Moab youth, and they're going to go out and hike along the river road and pick up trash. And
Is that associated with the Adopt a Highway campaign that's put on by the state? Is that similar, or?
yes, it is. It's as a matter of fact, we have a committee member on our committee from the Department of Transportation who's involved with that.
Great. Okay, and that's underway, or are there specific groups of people who are already involved, or can volunteers help adopt that highway?
Well, like I said, Wayne Ruth is going to head that up, and he's going to be looking for some volunteers when he gets it together. So
great.
that'll be coming along.
Okay. Is there anything else going on that people can be involved with that deals with the cleanup along that road?
Well, there's some things going on with some trash facilities. Right now, probably a lot of people have seen the dumpster at the Slick Rock Trailhead, and that's been real successful in keeping that area clean. Rim Cyclery and Dave's Corner Market put that up there, and that was at their own expense. And so I think that's really great when community businesses come together like that and
they see the need.
help out. Yes, they
Definitely.
do, and took charge on that.
So there's an opportunity along River Road for other individuals or businesses to do the same thing?
Yes, and we're looking at various locations for additional dumpster sites. Lions Park, Dewey Bridge, Big Bend on the River Road, and also in the future Cane Springs and the Potash Road.
Great.
Just trying to stay ahead of the problems. If anyone is interested in helping to volunteer on any of those programs or adopt a dumpster, you can talk to Dave Bierscheid at the Chamber of Commerce.
Which is 259-7531. Is there anything else that's going on that you wanted to talk about? There sounds like there's lots of programs that are happening this season.
There really are. Probably people have seen the new toilets at the Slick Rock Trail, and that was the BLM put those up there, and that's another great help. We're also looking at additional facilities. The BLM has recently put some on the Potash Road and an undeveloped campsite there, and we're looking at other areas too, especially on the River Road.
It sounds like it's kind of slowed down a little bit here in the dog days of summer. Are we going to be looking for more impact and lots of numbers of campers in the fall on River Road?
I think so. It's kind of a spring-fall season. It does get hot, and the mountain bikers head to the mountains, I guess, during the summer.
So is there going to be any signage or information boards put out in the fall? Will they be there by the fall to sort of tell people how to do it right, in addition to the one-on-one contacts?
Yes. We're looking at putting in a few information stations, bulletin board type stations at Dewey Bridge, Lions Park, and then in the future possibly on the Potash Road. And those information stations will have some basic camping etiquette information, cycling information, and also we'll distribute the BLM's camping on undeveloped camping on private or public lands.
Those little guides
brochures,
that say
yeah.
this is how you do it right.
Right. They're a pretty comprehensive guide, and it'll really help a lot.
Great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Should we reiterate the numbers for contacting Dave?
Sure.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to mention before we head out here is the public meeting that the committee's going to have to involve the public more in what we're doing. I've given you some ideas of what's going on, but if the public has any ideas on what they perceive as problems or would like to help in the effort, on Friday, July 14th at 10 a.m. in the council chambers, the committee will be meeting, and we're opening that to the public so that they can come in and comment on the programs and let us know how they think we're doing. Also, if you have any things you'd like to talk about to Dave about on the programs or ideas, you can give him a call at the chamber anytime.
So the public hearing is going to be specifically about the purpose statement and the objectives that the committee has drawn up, is that right?
Yes, and that will be in the paper, coming out in the paper, and so people can see it in there and check it out.
I believe it's in this week's Times.
Okay, so we should just say stay tuned to Channel 6 for further details on the Blue Ribbon Committee, and if you do want to volunteer in any way, whether it's to visit the visitors one-on-one and tell them how to camp in a low-impact manner, or to adopt the highway, or adopt a dumpster, or simply to be involved, then call 259-7531. Or you can always call Pat here and say, hey, I want to be on the education subcommittee with you. Then I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
We need all the help we can get.
Exactly. Thanks a lot for doing this with me today, Pat.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. This has been a TV6 interview. I'm Christy Robbins reporting.
I'll be back in just a moment with more news of our Moab area.
The Movies Video Library at 98 East Center Street has the largest and best selection of movies in Utah, with over 3,000 titles. New releases to classics, a large selection of children's movies, and for that sweet tooth, Golitz candies. We also have gourmet coffee with many fine blends. The Movies, your one-stop video store at 98 East Center, 259-8847.
We've kept you posted from time to time on the progress of that controversy over whether or not to move low-level waste material, radioactive waste material from Denver over to the Uravan, Colorado area, something that was opposed by Utah because of fear of contamination into the Colorado River. Well, the people at the Montrose area say they're not through with the fight. Recently, it was announced that material would be going into Utah for disposal over into the western Utah desert. But officials of Umetco Corporation say they still feel their options are open. So with federal and state agencies stewing over details of a contract to move Denver's radium waste to Utah, Umetco officials said they believe that Montrose could still handle the waste. And according to one official, he said, we are keeping things open for the Denver radium waste until the actual contract is signed and the waste starts moving. Roger Jones of Umetco, an environmental engineer, made that comment. The Grand Junction-based Umetco Corporation lost the radium waste bid last month to Chem Nuclear Systems, a South Carolina firm that plans to ship the waste to a dump west of Salt Lake City in the western desert. The contract was awarded to Environmental Protection Agency, but the Colorado Department of Health is now questioning the adequacy of the contract. We have incomplete information, according to Bob Quillen, director of the Health Department's Radiation Control Division, and he said we want more definition. Quillen said his agency is specifically questioning the lack of a detailed transportation plan, the siting of a facility where the radioactive dirt would be packed into drums, and the absence of any public relations plan to advise Denver citizens of the cleanup. So the controversy is still going on, but last we heard it did look like that material would be going to western Utah. Moab City is now accepting sealed bids on painting the outside of one of the city water tanks. That's water tank number 2. That's the Mountain View area tank. Bid specs may be picked up at the city offices at 150 East Center Street in Moab, and the deadline for all sealed bids is Wednesday, July 5th at 5 o'clock. Bids may be turned into Moab City offices or taken to the City Council meeting on July the 5th at 8 o'clock in the council chambers of the courthouse. And if you want more information, call Moab City at 259-5121. And finally, the regular meeting of the Grand County Commission that was scheduled for June 26th will instead be held on Wednesday, June the 28th. The meeting will start at 9 a.m. in the council chambers of the courthouse. And that's news of Moab and our Canyonlands area. We hope you enjoy a good day.